Earlier today, and as it's been widely reported, Coach Schiano informed me that he was resigning his position to become head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, you know, needless to say, it's definitely a bittersweet day here for us at Rutgers. I congratulate Greg. I think what he's done for Rutgers is really immeasurable. And the state that he's put our program in moving forward, which I'll talk about a little bit, is a great state. So I congratulate Greg and his family. I know this is an exciting time for them. I can't thank him enough for everything that he's done. You know, the good news about this whole situation is that the program really is stronger than it's ever been. And it's built to last. And it took a lot of hard work getting to this point, but even though there's a lot of hard work ahead, you know, we have something that we're taking out into the marketplace here, this search, which has already begun, that's stronger than anything Rutgers has ever had to offer. You know, I talked to the players earlier. I've been in their shoes. My first year at Rutgers as a student athlete, our coach was fired at the end of the year. It was a coaching transition. It was suddenly I was going to get ready to play for somebody that didn't recruit me. That was an unknown. There's a lot of uncertainty about it. I think our players are struggling with those emotions. But what I would tell you is that having been in their shoes is going to be valuable for me in going forward with this search. And it's going to end up in a great place. But the one thing I'd say is that the program is bigger than any one person. And you know, we can't thank Coach enough for his contributions to the program, but you know, this program, what it's about today, is what it will be about forever. And the family, the integrity, the balance, the trust, all those things are never changing. And that's what we take out as this opportunity. You know, the timing of it is not ideal. With signing day just 6 days away, obviously I'm very aware of that. At the same time, you know, our sole focus right now is on keeping a great class of committed players committed to Rutgers, because what they've committed to is not changing. While the personalities might be changing, the program itself is not changing. I'm going to do whatever I can do. You know, I know that our coaching staff, we've already met. They are talking to our current players. They're back out on the road recruiting. We're going to do everything that we can do to bring this class in. And I'm going to do what I can do to communicate directly with some of our prospective student athletes, recruits, their families. We've put, you know, it might sound funny and it's nothing to do with football coaching, but I am on the football coaching staff as of about an hour ago. So I can communicate directly with recruits and their families and explain what we're going to be doing here at Rutgers as part of our program. And we're going to do whatever it takes. The search is already underway. As you can imagine, these things move very, very quickly. And you know, what I would tell you is that I know I have to move quickly here given the timing, but much like we did in other instances, I'm going to take the time I need to make the absolute right decision for our program. We owe our current players, our program, and recruits coming to our program too much not to do that. So we will, it's one of those hurry up but don't rush deals. We'll take the time necessary because this is a long-term decision. This is something that's going to affect a long-term program. We want to make sure we get it right. I've been through this before, unfortunately. The transition we have with our men's basketball coaching position when recruiting was over, and most coaches in the marketplace were placed in new jobs, and we ended up hiring Mike Rice, and I like the way that looks right now. So we've been through this before. We're certainly familiar. But we're excited, too, I would tell you that. I mean, having gone to 6 bowl games in 7 years, won 5 in a row, the longest active bowl win streak in the country, you know, this program is not a rebuild. Okay, this is a move forward. It is not a rebuild. This thing is priced to move in every way. And I think what we'll take out is going to be very attractive. I can tell you from the incoming I've received the last several hours is very attractive in college football. So it's a great job. You guys have heard me say this over and over again. It's the #1 TV market. It's a great institution. It's an institution that supports, you know, football and athletics. We've got great assets here. And the most important asset we have is everybody that was sitting in here an hour ago. Our team, our coaching staff, our administration. The people is really what make this program. And like I said, it's more about the people, not just one person. I also wanted to say before I take questions that Kyle Flood has been placed as our interim head coach. So Kyle, as of about an hour ago, has taken over all operations of the football program and will work in coordination with me. Other than that, I'm happy to take any of your questions, guys.
Guys, just before you ask, just wait for a microphone to come to you, please. We'll have 2 wireless mics. Thank you. Dave.
Tim, when did you first hear of Greg's intentions to maybe leave for the NFL?
When did I what? I'm sorry.
When did you first hear
Yep.
of Greg's intentions of his desire to leave for the NFL, and were you blindsided as many of us were?
Not at all. No. And Greg and I mean, it's been well chronicled. You guys have written it to death. We've known each other since we were kids. We've had a long-standing relationship. I've worked with him here, played for him in high school. We have a very open relationship as far as the communication goes, which sometimes drives us both crazy with every detail, but I've been in the know on this from the beginning. So the answer is, in my mind, it was absolutely handled in the right way by Coach and the people he was working with. I was in the know from the beginning. And
when was the beginning? A couple of weeks ago, a month ago? Or?
No, I don't think. It was probably about a week. I think this thing moved a lot quicker than people expected it to move.
And just as far as you being on the staff and everything daily, can you go out and talk to kids and make visits with a normal assistant coach? What role do you have just trying to put together a plan to put the class together?
And I think the only role I really can offer in this, Brian, is to be communicating directly with recruits and their families about the football program and what it is and what it's going to be, and continue to sell the vision. That's a constant. And like I said, it was kind of a joke. This is not about knowing anything about being able to be a football coach. It's I want our prospective student athletes and their families to have the ability to have a dialogue with me about who we're talking to, where it's going, where we expect to end up. It's really designed more to keep the class strong, to give people comfort that we're not looking to change all of the things that have made us really the class of college football.
George.
Hey, Tim, just you talk about the urgency with signing day coming up, and now knowing that you knew this was coming a week ago, or it could come as early as a week ago, can you describe the process of having to be urgent in getting a coach in here, maybe before signing day, but then again, not rushing the process? I mean, were there already people that have been contacted in advance of this announcement today? Do you have a short list already? I mean, where do you guys stand as far as having to react and settle this as fast as you can without making a mistake?
Any AD worth whatever the university pays him has a list in his pocket all the time. And while in my mind, I think in a lot of people's minds that are affiliated with Rutgers, there was a hope and an expectation that we would be able to keep Coach Schiano here for a long time. I knew that at any moment that could change, and I've had myself ready for this moment since the day I walked on this campus in April. Okay. So we've been ready. As far as the short list goes, the answer, I think I answered that by saying I've always had a list, but I'm not going to get into who's on that list. For those of you that were close to me during the basketball search, that happened in a very specific way, and I would tell you that this search is going to get handled the same way.
Tim, how quickly would you like to have this decision made, obviously, signing it?
As soon as possible. I'm not trying to be short with you. I mean, really, as soon as possible. I think that I'm going to spend the time I need to spend to make sure we get to know the people that we're considering at the deepest possible level. That, coupled with the fact that best case scenario would be great for incoming recruits to know who their head coach is going to be before signing day, but I'm not making any guarantees on that, because if it takes a little bit more time to try to give ourselves the level of comfort we need that we're finding the right person, we're going to take the time to do that.
Tim, financial considerations, is the fact that Greg leaves and you don't have to pay a coach who's been fired for extra years in their contract, does that free up more money to spend on a head coach at all? Is that a factor in it at all?
I'll be honest with you, Mike, I'm not really thinking about that. I think that as far as the finances go, that's a variable depending on who the candidates are. And quite frankly, I've never really, if you start a search with finances, you screw it up completely. I think you got to put more in trying to find the right person that stands for the right things, that is going to lead the program the right way, and then you could always figure out a way to make the compensation work.
Tara?
Hey, Tim, can you just tell us what you can about what what Greg told you? Why now? He's turned down other jobs before. Why now?
Well, I think that's probably a question for Greg.
I know.
But I think that I would just say it from this perspective. I think that whatever profession you're in, you strive to succeed in that profession at the absolute pinnacle of the profession. And there's 32 guys, in the country or in the world that are going to have these jobs. So the NFL is, to some extent, the pinnacle of football coaching, and I'm sure that, that had to be an appealing thing for Greg. At the same time, I think that I can't get into all the details of why, but maybe this one felt a little different for him than other ones that he's turned down before.
Tim, some reports have surfaced that Greg had contact with some other NFL teams, or they may have reached out to him. When did this one reach the point where it became more serious than those? Obviously, Chip Kelly turned down this job on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Was it after that? Was it prior to that?
This specific situation?
Yeah, that you knew that Greg was serious. As I said, there's been reports surfaced that he had some dalliances with other NFL teams.
Yep.
When did this one pass that point of being just, are you interested, yes, no, and it became real serious?
I think based on what I know, the last 48 hours. I think it moved very, very quickly.
Yeah, Tim, throughout this thing, a lot has been made about Greg's contract. Could you clarify exactly what his buyout is? It's our understanding that maybe the buyout is $500,000, and then he had another $200,000 on the house loan. Could you clarify that for us?
I mean, we're in the midst of looking at that, Hutch. There's a lot of details, and Greg's agreement is a very complicated document, and we don't want to we'll make sure you guys get that information. We don't want to throw it out right now without the specific details, because there are a lot of variables in that. But once we have the I's dotted and the T's crossed, we'll make sure you get that information.
Do you have a blueprint that you're looking for in the next coach as far as NFL experience, head coaching experience, regional ties, anything like that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of criteria. Number one is we're looking for the right kind of person. I think that understanding and being able to have your arms around the culture of the tri-state area, I think is critical to being successful at Rutgers. And so much has been built in this program around being able to recruit on a somewhat regional level. And I think having a great understanding, and not only a great understanding, Brian, but really deep and strong relationships in the tri-state area, those are two critical factors in this whole thing.
Could you go into detail a little bit about, why the decision was made to keep Coach Flood in this interim role, and to, what his responsibility is, how he kind of handled it when he was informed of the decision?
He handled it like a pro, handled it like a veteran. And a lot of the reason that we're moving Kyle into that position is because he's been here a long time. He has great relationships with the players. He has great relationships in recruiting. He's very steady. And I think that we've already had a couple of kind of impromptu meetings since I informed him. He embraced it. He wants to do it. And the first thing out of his mouth was, I'm going to get the staff together and we're going to figure out how to bring this class in. So far so good. But with Kyle, he's been around a long time, and it was just an obvious choice to me to put him in the role.
And two quick questions. The first is the conference uncertainty. Do you think that played any kind of role, that Greg was uncertain of the future of Rutgers, where it's going to be in terms of the conference and league?
Again, I think you'd have to ask him that, Tom, but I think that anybody that stands up here and says conference uncertainty is not a concern anymore is just lying to you. It's something I wake up with every single day. So I think that the uncertainty and the fluidity of the situation has got everybody concerned. You and I have talked about, and it's not just us, but you look around the country and see how many schools are struggling trying to find football games just based on the fact that there's all this transition uncertainty, everybody's reluctant to pull the trigger. I think that factors into a lot of the decisions that every coach or athletic director makes in the end.
Also, given everything we know everything he's accomplished here, the academics, the stadium, all that kind of stuff, 12 years, promised championships, didn't deliver one. Did he fail in that regard?
I think that Greg moves on to a job here in Tampa that's going to be a lot different than this one. I would tell you that any coach that leaves a job and says, I accomplished everything I set out to do, you're probably never going to hear anybody say that. So what I look at is all the stuff that he's done, because I think, it's easy for me to say because it's my alma mater and I'm taking the shot. I think this was the worst program in college football 11 years ago. And I think what Coach has done to put it to the point where this is a high-profile, attractive job in a BCS conference in the #1 media market in the country has a lot to do with all that work that was done. And I'm not going to speak for him, but those championships are down the road. Because if we're talking to Kasim and Brandon and all the guys on our team and being able to talk to them, I told them that this program is built. The people in the room are going to be the ones that make it happen. It's my job now to surround them with the right kind of people so we can continue to take it forward. But putting timelines on championships is dangerous business, but those championships are ahead of us. I've never been more certain of that.
I know you said the process will take however long it takes. Is it possible at all to get somebody in place by signing day? Do you have any indication whether it's doable or not doable?
Yeah, I think it's doable.
Any other questions?
Tim, just in talking about signing day, what will your message be to recruits, committed, uncommitted, anyone that you are now able to reach out to as a member of the staff?
I think the message will be, Sam, that the program that you committed to, if they are committed, or the program you're considering, it's the same program that it was 2 days ago. It's going to stand for the same things. The core values are never going to be sacrificed. We're still going to rely on our players and our student athletes in the program who host student athletes and recruits to look at us and say, this is the right or the wrong kind of person to have at Rutgers. We're going to continue to do all the things that we've done that's made it what it is today. I think that's the main message we'll send. And also, the message I'll send clearly is it's my responsibility to make sure we surround the program with the right people. And this program is my program. I came here to play football too. I'm not going to sacrifice anything that we've built and stand for in order to put somebody in here that I think is going to enable us to win quickly, but we won't necessarily worry about all the details around it, which could be compromised.
Well, Tim, why are you, why do you have a degree of confidence that you could bring somebody in here by the start of the signing period? That's a quick turnaround.
Yeah, it's a very quick turnaround, and obviously it requires a lot of moving parts. But what I would tell you is from the not only the outreach that I've done, but the outreach that's been done in my direction and the response and the profile of the people that we're talking to, I think it's very achievable.
Tim, just as best as you can you just kind of walk us through the logistics of your day? Like, how early did this happen? When did you talk to Greg? Did he come in to you? Just give us a little bit of what your day was like.
Well, it's rare that I'm asleep before 11 o'clock at night, but Coach did leave me a message last night. I mean, we've been having regular dialogue on this thing throughout. And I know he was out, he was recruiting, he left me a message late last night.
How late?
It was after 11 o'clock. And like I said, usually I'm up, but I would happen to be asleep. So we spoke this morning about 9:30, and we continued to speak throughout the morning, and he informed me a little bit before 12 noon that he was going to take the job. And then we met over here about an hour later and just started to talk about a variety of different things. We're going to meet with the team, meet with our coaching staff, meet with the administrators that support the football program, academic and otherwise. And he walked me through what his timeline is going to be over the next couple of days. I explained what I was going to do on the interim part, and I also explained that I thought it was important that I get involved in the recruiting process as soon as possible. So it was a chaotic day. Needless to say, I think some of this stuff got out through channels of media in Tampa, and it started to spiral out of control. Our main goal was to be able to sit down with the team and talk to the team before anything made it out. Unfortunately, that didn't play out that way, so we worked with it as best we could.
Tim, just,
Sorry, go Tyler, and then we'll get yours.
Tim, how much bearing would a decision to hire a head coach would retain some of those assistants who are out there recruiting for you impact your decision on the head coach?
Say again, I'm not following.
How much impact or bearing would hiring a head coach who would retain some of those assistants that are out recruiting for you now?
I think with any head coach, every time I've done a search, it has been, and this will be just another one of many now in 3 years. I've told every prospective head coach or head coach we've hired that I think it's important to have a good hard look at the people we have on our staff. Having said that, especially in the higher profile sports, head coaches are inclined to surround themselves with the commodities that they know or people they've worked with. So while you can't make any guarantees, I think based on what we've built here, based on the fact that we've got a great coaching staff that has worked for Greg, that's really been, in recruiting especially, been the engine in the car and been able to bring a lot of great people to Rutgers, I would imagine that any candidate is going to take a very hard look at these people. And at the same time, I think we have to give any new head coach the flexibility to be able to put the staff together the way they see fit.
Tim, you know, and I think you've laid out eloquently what you're going to tell these kids. But at the same time, I'm trying to imagine if I'm one of those kids and I've bought into what Greg has sold me, and I believe in Greg Schiano and what he's done and the nation of Rutgers, and I'd be devastated today because the guy that recruited me, that came to my home and came to my games, is not going to be there. Is what you're saying about the continuity of the program and the mission, is that going to be enough, do you think? Or do you assume you're going to lose some of these kids? I mean, it's got to be devastating to hear that the guy that brought you in is leaving. So I'm just wondering what your take is on that.
Yeah, I think the answer is we're going to see. Because, you know, the one thing I know about our coaches that are on the road recruiting, and they were out today, they came in, we talked to them, and now they're back out. And, you know, about me, is that these people believe in the place, love the place, and can sell the place. And like I said, as much as we appreciate everything Greg has done, and while it's a bittersweet day on that front, this thing that's been built is bigger than any one individual. And look, kids sign up for coaches when they go to a certain school. Sometimes they sign up for the school. I think it's a variety of different factors, but there is an emotional connection. But the good thing is I think there's a core group of committed players coming to Rutgers for next year that seem to be sticking together, you know, while all this transition is going on. But I think it's going to vary depending on who we're talking to. You know, unfortunately, we're not recruiting you. You're very emotional.
Well, I'm a little touched up by this whole thing.
Tim, in your conversations with Greg, did you try to talk him out of this at all, or, you know, how did you approach that in terms of trying to keep him?
Absolutely, I did. Because I think, you know, I believe in my heart of hearts that Greg is the right kind of person to have at Rutgers. I think his track record speaks for itself. So I did do that. You know, and the thing about our relationship too is that we were able to have that conversation. We were also able to have some objective conversations about, you know, the pros and cons of the college game and the pro game. So it was a combination of things, but I spent a good amount of my time explaining to Greg all the reasons why I thought that staying at Rutgers was the best possible move. But at the same time, Hutch, I can't decide what's good. I can't decide what's best for you. I can't decide what's best for Greg Schiano. Only he can decide that.
Maybe you can notify whether Greg's going to bring any assistance with him or not.
Not yet. You know, I know that Greg is going to be introduced formally tomorrow, and I imagine the process will start to roll from there. But the answer to that is no. And what I'd also tell you is that I know a lot of these guys very well. I know the value they bring, and you know, we're going to fight like hell to keep the good people here.
Mike?
Can you reflect a little more on how important Greg has been to this program? I mean, you haven't been the athletic director the whole time, but you've seen it from the very beginning here, from the broadcast booth to being the athletic director. Can you just reflect on that, the changes that you've seen around here in the program, the attitude, the students, the whole 9 yards?
Yeah, I think it's all good stuff, Mike. You know, from the hardest part about taking something like this over, I would imagine, is changing the culture. And I think that was probably the biggest accomplishment. And the second hardest part is seeking and finding the right kind of people for your program. And you don't need to look very far. You look at Eric, you look at Kaj, you look at Jonesy, you look at these guys. We got such good people in this program. And, you know, the thing that I've always observed the most is not the way they play, the way they carry themselves. I hear from faculty the way our kids carry themselves on campus. Like seeing a couple of players after the bowl game walking my kids in the locker room so they got there without getting lost. Like it's such a great family environment. And it's the kind of thing where when you're a dad and you have sons and you want them to play college sports, this is the kind of program I want my kids to be part of because there's just good people in it. That starts at the top. So I think the culture change that people in college football said could never be done here, that's probably Greg's greatest accomplishment. And it's all about environment. You create the right environment with the right people, the success and the wins and all that stuff come with it.
Back right with Dave.
Was today the first day that recruits were contacted and told about this, or was this done earlier? And also, I know it was today, it's been a brief amount of time, but can you characterize the response of recruits in general? Is anybody basically said, I'm not coming?
I really can't get into talking about any specific interactions with recruits, you know, because of the NCAA rules, but what I will tell you is that today was the first time they were contacted about it.
Any other questions for Tim?
Guys, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it.
Guys, Casino.